Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Uncanny X-Men number 273, cover dated February 1991. So this cover is by Jim Lee, but inked by Kevin Nolan, an artist that Jim Lee has professed his admiration for in the past. And the cover features a combination of the X-Men, X-Factor and New Mutants reacting in shock and surprise to this mysterious figure in the foreground who states, "Follow me, X-Men, or Professor X dies." So what's interesting about this particular issue, which is a type of epilogue to the X-Tinction agenda, is that it is a jam issue by a team of superstar artists, and the first who do more or less 3 or 2 pages each of the issue. And the first artist is Whilce Portacio, who at this time had left the Punisher art duties and had started in this month art duties on X-Factor, working first with writer Louise Simonson and then subsequently with Claremont. So what's happening here in this aftermath of the X-Tinction agenda is members of the various teams, X-Men, X-Factor and New Mutants, are gathered in the underground portion of Professor X's X-Mansion in Westchester, upstate New York. The school itself on the surface was destroyed in previous months, and so they're based underground in a high-tech facility. So Storm and Cyclops and Jean Grey here, Marvel Girl, are debating the question, as Storm puts it. Now, the question now becomes, what do we do about them? This is their assessment of the foes the X-Men and the other X-teams face on the planet. So if I turn over the page, we have this half splash featuring a map of the planet with various identified threats. Everything from the Hand in East Asia to the Hellfire Club in New York and the Reavers in Australia. And we have one of these handy dramatis personae panels as well, where we have all the various characters presented and named for the reader. So the creative team is, as ever, Chris Claremont writer, but as I mentioned, there is an all-star team of artists working on this issue. First 3 pages by Whilce Portacio, next up Klaus Janson, then John Byrne, then Rick Leonardi, Marc Silvestri, Michael Golden, Larry Stroman, and series regular Jim Lee. And what's another cool feature of the issue is, although we have a team of different artists working on the issue, we have one inker, and that's Scott Williams. So you get to see Williams inking a variety of very different styled artists. Regular letterer Tom Orzechowski and Joe Rosas rounds out the creative team as colorist. So we move over the page here, and next up on the artist roster is Klaus Janson. So it's interesting to see Janson here doing pencils and being inked by someone else. Janson, of course, being primarily known as an inker, often teaming with Frank Miller and or John Romita Jr., but is an artist and a penciler in his own right. So here we see Williams' interpretation of Janson's pencils. And what's going on here is there's a debate between these the leader figures of the 3 teams, and Cable is arguing that they have the power and they should take the fight to the various threats they've identified operating on the planet. but Cyclops and Storm are more cautious about what they should do in the future. And this is all in advance of Cable breaking off and forming the new team X-Force, which supplanted the New Mutants. So Cable anyway heads off, having failed to convince Storm that his notion of taking the fight to their enemies is the best one. And then we have a little comic scene where Cable happens across Boom Boom, who's trying to get into the bathroom, and the bathroom is being hogged by Iceman. And anyway, Cable threatens Iceman, so he says, fine, let's Boom Boom in, but he's iced up the whole of the bathroom. So there you go, and that's the end of Klaus Janson's section of the issue. Next up is very, very interesting. So we've got John Byrne here, and this is the first collaboration between Byrne and Claremont since Uncanny X-Men 143, where Byrne left the title for a combination of reasons. One of the reasons was he was not happy with Claremont's writing on the book. He wasn't happy with the way Claremont was interpreting his plots. And also he wasn't happy with the way that Claremont was more interested in quiet moments, introspection, the emotional character development of the team members rather than action. And another reason, of course, was that Byrne got offered artistic and writing duties on Fantastic Four, which he took up after leaving X-Men. So this is Byrne and Claremont working together again, and we see excellent artwork by Byrne here, inked by Scott Williams, of course, and his few pages of the book concern Cyclops and Ororo considering where to go next, and Cyclops is advocating that everybody decamp from the X-Mansion to Ship, which is the sentient ship that is the home of X-Factor and which offers protection against any encroaching threats. So Jean also gets involved in the debate. She's worried about Magneto, how he seems to have returned to more villainous ways in recent months in Marvel continuity. And the debate ends with Ororo still ambivalent about what step to take next with the X-Men. So next up on the art roster is Rick Leonardi. And Rick Leonardi was a fill-in and guest artist a number of times during the run when Marc Silvestri was regular penciler of the book. So here he is again, and inked by Williams. And this scene concerns Moira McTaggart, who readers know, even if Banshee and the other X-Men don't, that she's under the influence and control of the Shadow King. So this has affected her style of dress and the daringness and extroversion of her behavior, not in keeping with her former character. So Banshee is worried about this. Then we have a dialogue here between Forge and Beast, where Forge is working on, and again this is the aftermath of X-Tinction Agenda, where Ran was turned into Genoshan mutate, and Forge is working on trying to reverse the process, so far unsuccessfully. Then we have a little scene, one-page scene set in the Danger Room, where Archangel and Cannonball are working out in the Danger Room, and Archangel gets the better of Cannonball. And then the scene shifts to the ruins of the X-Mansion. Again, Storm is wondering about what step to take next with the team. This section is drawn by Marc Silvestri. And I remember when I first read this issue, really it was Silvestri's art that most impressed me. And I really like when his work is inked by Scott Williams as well. So what happens in this little scene is that Gambit turns up, And in effect, he is saying to Storm, let's hit the road again. Let's go back to what we were doing before we hooked up with the X-Men, which was robbing from the rich and giving to the poor. But Storm isn't convinced. But Gambit says, look, if you're going to stay with the X-Men, then you're going to have to start acting the part that, they're your friends and your family and they need you. So then we have a 2-page scene set in the women's quarters of the X-Complex. And we have the aftermath of Iceman's joke on Boom Boom. She's chasing him. Psylocke interrupts. And Boom Boom, behind Bobby's back, sticks one of her time bombs down the back of his boxer shorts, which blows up in the last panel there. Then we have this dialogue between Jean and Psylocke, old friends. And Jean is basically asking Psylocke, why don't you contact your brother, who is Brian Braddock, aka Captain Britain, and let him know that you're alive and well. And Psylocke isn't ready for that, in particular because of her transformation, her physical transformation. And she talks about how even she's not sure whether she should be trusted because of the interference of the hand in her psyche, and the fact that they use not just technology but also magic in transforming her into this Asian ninja body. And then we have a 3-page scene with Wolverine and Gambit training in the Danger Room, and this is drawn by Michael Golden. Michael Golden, a very important influence on both Whilce Portacio, Jim Lee, and the newer set of superstar artists. So this is a very fluent action scene here, and Michael Golden, known very much for his talent in drawing tech and vehicles. So he's chosen to set this particular scene, perhaps on Claremont's instructions, in a kind of a storage yard for old planes, which picks up on the location of Uncanny X-Men 267 actually. And into the program there comes the unexpected figure of Lady Deathstrike, a sworn enemy of Wolverine's. So Wolverine, distracted by her, takes her on, and Gambit uses the distraction to get the better of Wolverine. And as he says here in this panel, for the record though, just to make this official, bang, you dead. And Jubilee's upset in the control room because she's very worried about Wolverine, who seems to be in a very weakened condition with his healing factor not working as well as it used to, and seems to be in a state of decline. And then the scene shifts to the War Room, and these few pages are drawn by series regular Jim Lee. Jean Grey is wondering how to contact missing X-Men Rogue, Longshot and Dazzler, and she decides to use Cerebro, which is the computer that Professor X has used historically to identify mutants that would need his help around the globe. So it amplifies telepathic powers, and at this point in continuity, Jean Grey doesn't have her telepathy, she only has the power of telekinesis. So she puts on the Cerebro helmet and she enters into the astral plane, where she is suddenly and unexpectedly attacked by the Shadow King, who presents himself in the guise of his most recent avatar, the FBI agent Jacob Reese. And Jean doesn't fare well in the fight against the Shadow King, but she is rescued last minute by Psylocke, who enters the astral plane and uses her psychic knife to break Jean out. So when Jean emerges from the astral plane, because of Psylocke's use of the psychic knife, she can't remember who it was exactly she encountered, and Psylocke doesn't recognize the Shadow King. So they're none the wiser, but the reader is following along with this developing subplot, which is going to play out in the next few months in X-Men continuity. And then we have the last 2 pages of the issue drawn by Larry Stroman. Larry Stroman, in a few months' time, would become the lead artist on the rebooted X Factor, written by Peter David, with issue number 71. And in this final 2 pages of the issue, Storm is resolved not to go with Cyclops and Jean, but rather to stick with the X-Men. The members staying with her, changing into these new costumes, debuted a few months previously and before the X-Tinction agenda. And just as Cyclops and Marvel Girl are walking away, there arrives in this sports car Strong Guy and Lila Cheney. And Lila Cheney says to Storm that Professor X needs the X-Men big time, that he's in trouble. Storm says, take us to him. And Lila Cheney, who is this celestial level teleporter, teleports all the X-Men away just before Cyclops and Jean can find out what's going on. So then we have our little notice as regards what's coming up in the next issue. Not quite what the reader would expect, as Magneto and Rogue stage a Savage Land showdown. So that's coming next in Uncanny X-Men 274. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like the video. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content just like this.